One Thursday. "What the hell, Nick?" Susan hissed. "Is this some kind of stupid joke?" She looked absolutely furious. We were sitting in the sun outside a Starbucks in Dunlap, a couple towns away, and luckily all the neighboring tables were empty. I held my hands up in a calming gesture. "Susan, does it look like I'm joking? Is my face signaling, oh my gosh, we're sure having fun here?" For a minute, she just stared at me, gradually calming down and losing the color in her face. Finally, she quietly asked, "How did you know?" I told her everything I knew, at least briefly, then played a couple minutes of tape. Tuesday, 2 days ago. You never know how you're going to react. Can you? If you got a call saying your mom had died of a heart attack, would you know what you would do first? Or if you saw your child get hit by a car? God, I don't even want to think about that. But would you scream or kill someone or freeze in place? How would you know? I can't say I was stunned because I wasn't, not in the last couple minutes before I discovered them. I pulled into Apple Tree Court, planning to make a quick stop to pick up a folder I'd mistakenly left in my home office. It was past noon, and I was thinking of stopping at an Indian place on Cheviot Road on my way to work. I left my car on the street, not bothering to go into the garage. As I approached the front door, I suddenly felt something strange, something akin to a mystical shiver. And instead of going in right away, I quietly unlocked the lock and opened the door and stood in the hallway for a moment, listening. Shit. There were sounds of sex coming from upstairs. It had to be Renee, even though she'd told me she was working a part-time job that day. She's a part-time teacher in New Baltimore a couple days a week. I took off my shoes and walked quietly down the carpeted steps, down the hallway to the guest bedroom. The door was open and I cautiously peeked in. Renee was sitting on top of the guy, her back to me, and making a lot of noise. However, no more noise than she'd ever made with me. I didn't scream. Didn't cry, didn't start cursing, didn't run into the room, didn't hit anyone. I stood in the hallway, frozen for maybe a minute. "Come on, fuck me!" Renee's voice, sharper than usual, the way she sometimes spoke to me. All I could hear from the guy below her was a grunt. I just, stood there, and then walked quickly and quietly down the hallway to my office, pulled out the voice recorder I used to dictate notes, turned it on, and stashed it neatly on the countertop next to the guest room. Then I picked up the folder I was picking up and left the house. They never knew I was there. Before I left, I looked in the garage. Renee's car was there, as was the blue Camry that belonged to Danny and Susan, the neighborhood couple that had been part of our group of friends when our kids went to kindergarten together. Renee opened the garage door, let him in, and closed it again. This is not the first time they have done this. Surprisingly, I didn't even get mad. Or should I say, I'm not mad yet. I ate my lunch at an Indian restaurant, barely tasting it, and then went back and had a productive day at the office, finishing up 2 pre-trial motions and preparing for the big interrogation next week. What's the point of that? I guess I just shoved it somewhere far, far in the back of my mind, the ultimate act of classification. I need to learn more about what's going on beyond the obvious, and somehow I've hidden the rage and sadness somewhere in the depths, letting them stand off until I have time to deal with them. As I walked through the door, I saw Vera and Ben on the swing in the backyard, and Renee poking her head out of the kitchen to smile at me. "Hi, honey." She was wearing the same outfit she always wears to class, a plain skirt and blouse, and she was also wearing the colorful apron we bought in Mexico. Almost as if in a blur, I walked in and gave her the usual hug and kiss, no more and no less, and she did the same. She was cheerful and lively, almost normal, almost. But there was some tension that I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't been looking closely. "The kids really wanted tacos today. They'll be ready in about 10 minutes if you want to play with them a bit first." Her warmth, the completely typical affection I felt from her, completely overwhelmed me. I was probably already numb, though. I went and played with the kids, cheering them on, enjoying their screams, and then we went to the house and had the most normal family dinner that there could be. I cleaned up the kitchen while Renee bathed the kids and changed them into their pajamas, and we watched one of their cartoons for a little while and then put them to bed. Just an ordinary evening at the Randall house like hundreds before it. And walking out of Ben's room, I suddenly couldn't bear it at all. I couldn't imagine spending the evening with Renee, watching TV, talking, or, God forbid, lying in bed together. "I'm sorry, honey," I said before she could speak. "Connor's deposition has been rescheduled for tomorrow, and I'll need a couple hours to work through it tonight." "No problem, Nick," she said, and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. "I'll finish watching the Medieval France series. Don't work late." I waited in my office, lazily trolling the net until I was sure she was already asleep. Do you have any idea how many cute kitty videos there are out there? Jesus Christ, some people really do have too much free time on their hands. Then I got the tape recorder, took it into my office, plugged in my headphones, and listened. All 46 minutes of it. It was actually 3 hours, but after the 46 recording, there was nothing else. First, there was grunting and moaning, sex sounds I'd already had the pleasure of hearing. Then a few sighs and relaxed breathing. Conversation didn't start until a couple minutes later. "Oh my God, this is so good." Renee's voice, low and relaxed, the kind you get after sex. "You're so fucking hot, Renee. This just keeps getting better and better. Nick is one lucky son of a bitch." "Stop it, Danny." I heard the sound of a light slap. "I don't want to talk about him. Do I have to say it again?" Okay, I'm sorry, baby." A couple more minutes of silence. Then, "You know what would be great? Actually, really great. How about we try cutting them off? You know, maybe not completely, but cut down on the house a little bit." "Wait, what?" Renee stirred in the bed, maybe lifting herself up. "Yeah," Danny said. "I suppose that would be very sexy. I'll know that Nick is getting less from you and I'm getting correspondingly more. And I'd do the same thing with Susan, you know, reduce the amount of sex to once a week or so. We wouldn't cut it off completely, which might make them suspicious, but less for them and more for us." He laughed. "It's going to be sexy as hell." "Danny," she said, her voice strained. There was anger in it. "Listen, I love my husband, and I'm not going to deny him sex just so I can play some stupid game with you, just so you can feel even better about yourself by deciding to do something with him." It seemed like she was already out of bed, walking around the room, probably picking up her clothes. "I already feel guilty knowing how much he loves me, how much he trusts me. Shit!" she hissed, loud enough to scare me when I heard it in my office. "You know, maybe it's time to stop with all of this. I love Nick and I don't love you, and it's never been anything more than a little fling on the side. I think we're done." "Baby, wait." Danny's voice was steady, soothing. "Asshole." "Okay, this is a bad idea. Forget it. Let's just get on with it. That was good, wasn't it?" "You know what, Danny? No, I'm done. It was hot. It was fun. But it's over between us. I feel bad about lying to Nick and lying to Susan. I'm ready to be his faithful wife and her friend again. Do you want some coffee?" And with those words, she must have skipped out of the bedroom and he stayed behind, continuing to say something to her. He followed her downstairs, and I listened to the conversation in the kitchen for another 20 minutes or more, unable to hear what was being said. Finally, there were the sounds of doors opening and closing twice, and then nothing. Silence. Thursday. I turned off the recorder and we sat in silence, in the sunshine. "What an asshole," Susan hissed. "What a governor! What a bastard!" She looked at me in complete seriousness. "Nick, could you go and hold him while I cut his balls off?" I laughed out loud. This is probably the first time in the last 3 days that I've laughed, or at least smiled. Susan and I had always been better friends than Danny. I liked her cheerfulness and humor, slightly sarcastic but playful rather than unkind. Danny, on the other hand, always struck me as a self-centered jerk, even before all this. "I'm tempted, Susan, but I'm not sure it's the most practical solution." "Practical as hell. Why does he deserve to keep walking the earth?" She was crying, but she was laughing at the same time, was as grief-stricken as I had been since Tuesday, yet acted aggressive and funny at the same time. I admired her. "Jesus, Nick, what are we gonna do? What are you gonna do? You had a couple days to figure this shit out." "I have some ideas," I said. "But first I want to know, is it really over? There's a difference for me, but how big a difference I don't know." She nodded. And how are you going to do that? I said, I've got a wiretap on her phone, voice recorders in the kitchen and upstairs. They can't meet at your place, so I guess whatever happens will be at our house. Susan nodded again. She ran her own small business importing textiles from home, so our cheating spouses don't go there. Let's meet back here again in the same place in a week. I'll pretend I don't know anything. It won't be easy, but I want to know if the bitch really did cancel. After that, we can decide what we're going to do, okay? She answered slowly. Yeah, I think that'll work. Although I'm going to have a hard time keeping from punching him as soon as he walks through the door. She laughed, a little bitterly, and said, I'm not sure I'm as good an actress as you, Nick. Just try if you can. Right now, we at least know what's going on, and they don't know that we know. Nick and Susan's advantage. Thursday, next week. Susan and I hugged and sat down at the table with coffee. Her face was drained, tense, and I assumed I looked about the same. They're done, I said immediately. It wasn't necessary to keep her waiting to hear it. Oh? Yeah, she'd called him at work on Friday, told him that was it, not to bother her anymore. She leaned back in her chair, digesting what she'd said. And he had a fight with her, I suppose? I laughed. Oh, yes. Said it was the most wonderful sex ever, blah, blah, blah. Kept telling her we'd never know. Apologized again for offering to cut us off. But she didn't want any of that. All in all, the conversation lasted about 3 minutes. And here's the weird thing. I leaned forward. She did confess to me, didn't she? Wait a minute. Really? She laughed hoarsely. Fucking bitch! I guess it's better late than never, right? She thought for a moment. Danny didn't say a word to me, of course. What an asshole. What did she say? That was 2 nights ago. All weekend she'd been weird, quiet, but at the same time more affectionate than usual. A light touch on my shoulder as she walked past me. A quick hug and kiss when I was doing something, like unloading dishes from the dishwasher. And Tuesday night I came home and she made chicken Sorrento. She makes it about twice a year because she knows I love it. It's my favorite meal. I bathed the kids early and put them to bed and then let her know we were going to the bedroom. I didn't know what I wanted to do, Hadn't touched her. Well, hadn't had sex with her since last Tuesday when I found out. So it's been a week, which is longer than usual for us. So we've been making love? Or having sex? I'm not sure exactly. Maybe she was doing one and I was doing the other. And when we were done, she just snuggled up to me, pressed up tight, kissing my neck and saying over and over again, "Love you." And then a few minutes later, she shuddered and burst into tears and said, "We need to talk." I paused for a moment and pulled out my voice recorder, placing it on the table. Here's just a little bit of it. I told you I had a recorder in my bedroom. There were sounds of bedclothes being shifted and Renee sobbing. She said, "Nick, I screwed up. I did the worst thing I could have done, the worst thing I could have ever done. And you're going to hate me," she cried harder. "And it's all my fault, and you're going to throw me the hell out. And I deserve it." She sniffled noisily again, blew her nose, and then, "I had a stupid, cheap affair with Danny Rudenko. We slept together 4 times. It started about 3 weeks ago. And now it's over. I told him to leave me alone." Silence again, sniffling again. "It was cheap and selfish, and I just can't believe I did it." I look at myself in the mirror and ask, and how did I turn into a selfish, dishonest, cheating bitch? Then my voice. "Did you sleep with him here? In our bed?" "Yes," she said in a squeezed voice. "Susan works from home, so we couldn't do it there." More sobs and then the sounds of me getting up, getting dressed, and leaving the room. That's enough to give you an idea. I came back a couple hours later. She was still awake, looking miserable, and told me the rest of the story. How it all started, all the stupid flirting, and about how he suggested cutting us off. Said that's what woke her up, made her pull her head out of her ass. Said she realized what a bastard he was, and she was suddenly disgusted with herself. She kicked him out, and then spent a week agonizing over the story. After Susan's story, I sat there for a while, sipping coffee and thinking about everything. It felt good, even comforting somehow. I hoped she felt that way too. Before we got up to leave, she asked, "So what now? What are you going to do with her with that fucking thing? I wrinkled my nose. Please don't be mad at me. Let's see if we can work this out. We have an appointment with a psychologist next week. Susan only raised her eyebrows. I said, I know, believe me, but you haven't seen her, Susan. She's as miserable as a person can be. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust her, but I think she'd cut off her own hand before she'd do anything like that again. We both love kids, and damn if I'm willing to be a dad once a weekend. So we'll give it a shot. I waited and then said, What about you? I've had enough. He's done. Actually, this time is not the first time. He had a brief affair with some bitch in his office. There's a secretary there, a friend of mine, and she told me about it. I talked to him before he slept with her more than a couple of times, and he was so apologetic, you know? Apologizing, telling me how awful he felt, how sorry he was. For months, he did everything for me. A vacation in the Caribbean without the kids, a new car, a heavy workload around the house, well, so on and so forth. I should have bloody well thrown him the hell out, but I was scared, you know? Emma and Alice were only 5 and 3, and becoming a single mom scared me. So I let him win me back, I guess. I mean, he never really did. From then on, I never trusted him or let my guard down, always waiting for the other fucking shoe to drop. I'm sorry, I said, and we sat for a while longer. The sun was nice. Okay then, I said, leaning forward. If you're sure you're done with that asshole, I have a couple ideas. Renee and I discussed them. She wasn't thrilled with them, but screw her, right? She's in no position to express her displeasure. I told Susan about my plans for the next couple weeks and was pleased to see her tense face spread into a wide smile, almost a smirk. Next Thursday. She didn't even wait for us to sit down. Susan immediately started telling me something. Damn, Nick, but I liked it. Looking at the look on her face, I thought that maybe I wasn't going to be able to take it anymore and punch her in the face. We made ourselves comfortable. I bought a couple muffins to go with the coffee and gestured for her to continue. Most of it I already knew, or at least Renee had told me from her side of the story, but Susan clearly wanted to share everything. She showed up Monday at 10 o'clock as planned. Of course, she was already aware that I'd found out from you, so was spared the need to confess. But she still looked like shit, like a second grader who'd been sent to the principal's office or something. She spoke, Susan, But I stopped her. I said, not a word, and I turned my back and took her into the kitchen. We sat there, and for a while I just stared at her. Naturally, I didn't offer her any coffee or anything, bitch. She just stared at the floor. Finally, I said, oh, okay, come on. She started crying immediately, before she even opened her mouth. Said something like, Susan, I'm so sorry, ... it, quote, S, so awful, I was so awful, and then she sobbed for a long time, unable to utter a word, still looking down. Finally, she came to her senses a little, looked up at me and said, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness and I don't expect it, but I apologize from the bottom of my heart. I asked Nick for forgiveness and I ask it of you. Danny and I were, no, fuck it, it was his fault. I was selfish and stupid. I stopped thinking about you and Nick and anything but my own fucking teenage ego. It was the worst thing I've ever done in my whole fucking life. It was a lot less coherent there, Nick, but you get the gist of it. She squeezed out a few more sentences, basically the same thing. Then we sat for a while. She stared at the floor again. Susan looked at me almost defiantly. And I have to say, I liked it. Sure, I'm still mad as hell at her, but she was absolutely miserable, and we both know she deserved all of it. And seeing her like that helped. Somehow, you know? I nodded. Believe me, Susan, I understand, I said. I had also been enjoying Renee's suffering a little in the last few days. It didn't get rid of my own rage, but it helped. We sat in silence for a couple more minutes, Susan continued, and then I said, Okay, Renee, you can go. I walked her to the door, and as she was about to leave, I said, You do realize we're never going to be friends, right? She just nodded, mumbled something, and I continued, But I'll be friends with Nick, as friends as I want to be. She looked at me, slightly alarmed, and I just gave her my best nasty smile and pushed her out the door, and then went back inside and ate a very large piece of gorgeous chocolate cake from Boulangerie's. I laughed. Any kind of friends, right? I'm sure it hit her. Susan and I knew that revenge was out of the question. We don't feel that way about each other, even though I like her a lot. The prospect of continuing to talk to her, just as a friend, made me smile. And then I said, "Well, I guess we're ready for the grand finale, right? Next week? Right here?" I'm actually amazed at how you managed to play this game for so long, Susan. I'm not sure I would have been able to. "Well, yeah," she growled. "It took me seeing a lawyer starting all this shit, and lying to him for 3 weeks straight while keeping a fucking smile on my face. I was even enjoying it, knowing a baseball bat was already flying at his head." She leaned forward. "Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you for letting me know, for keeping me in the loop." She squeezed my hand. "For being a good friend when, God knows, I needed one." "And the same to you," I said. "Actually, working together with you was the best part of all this shit. It's a blessing in disguise, right?" I gave her my best fucking grin and she laughed. We talked some more. She asked about the first session Renee and I had with the counselor, which went well, pretty much as expected. "I still can't believe you're giving her another chance, Nick." "I'm considering it. Considering giving her another chance. It's a big difference. Believe me, Susan, she knows she's on thin ice. But the confession changed everything, and the way she started acting after that. And, like I said, becoming a part-time weekend dad? No way in hell, except as a last resort. For you, I think things have become more obvious, and that's a good thing. Danny is at least a 2-time loser, and he's making good money, half of which will soon be yours. And my God, Susan, when you get on stage again, the guys will be all over you. Clear as day, I believe they say. Susan smiled broadly and patted me on the arm, telling me what a chatterbox I was, but I could see she liked hearing it. And it's the truth. She's beautiful, thoughtful, funny as hell, and smart. Once word of this gets out, there are a lot of guys interested in her. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Another Thursday. We have everything planned out. Susan is sitting alone at a round table outside with coffee for herself and Danny when he walks up to her with a happy smile on his face. "That's so sweet, baby," he said. "A little afternoon break from work. I love it. What's the occasion? Isn't there something special?" He sat down and didn't notice us coming up. Not until Renee sat on one side of the table and I on the other, between him and Susan, with impenetrable faces, each of us holding a manila envelope. I had to hand it to him. He was trying to bluff. His face tensed up and his eyes got very wide just for a second. Then he flashed a cute smile and said, "Hey, look who's here. Hey, guys, what a nice surprise." Come to think of it, the part I liked the most was the next part. When we all sat there, silent, no smile, just staring at him, watching him try to figure out what was going on, who knew what, and how to play it. He knew he couldn't let the silence last too long, so he said, "Did you guys decide not to go to work either? Is it someone's birthday or something?" We stared back at him in silence, watching him squirm. Damn, I was enjoying this. He tried again. "Can I get you some coffee or something? Nick, you want it black, don't you?" He started to get up and Susan said, "Sit down, asshole," in an icy tone without a shadow of emotion. Danny froze, looking at her, and then slowly, uncertainly sat back down. "Susan, honey," he began slowly again, "this is something." "Just shut the fuck up, okay?" she snapped at him. "It's gonna be a short conversation. We're gonna talk and you're gonna listen. And then you're gonna get up and walk away, and I don't care if you go straight to hell." "Susan, there's something—" "Stop!" she shouted. He fell silent. The people at the other tables turned their heads for a moment and looked at Susan. She looked at me. "Danny," I said, "everyone at this table knows what you did, what you and Renee did and what you did before that." He glanced quickly at Renee, alarmed. She only flashed her eyes back. I held out an envelope to him. "These are the divorce papers. Get yourself a lawyer. Susan's divorcing your cheating ass. The locks on the house have been changed and your stuff is in the garage. We helped Susan move them this morning." Before he could say a word, Renee handed him a second envelope. "This is a copy of your prenup. Everything will be quick, easy, and civilized. You'll also find a picture of your father-in-law holding his favorite Winchester rifle. I'm guessing he's expressed an interest in showing you how it works, should any complications arise. Wait, You can't, mumbled Danny. We watched him in silence. After a moment, he turned to Susan, his face contorted in an attempt to apologize. Susan, honey, I realize it was awful, but... She jumped to her feet, grabbed her coffee, and pretended to pour it on him. He flinched. Then she said, "Goodbye, Danny," and walked away, without looking back. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Last Thursday. Susan smiled widely when I said, "I really liked Andre. Earlier that week, the three of us had dinner. Susan started dating Andre about 4 months ago, and things seem to be going well. He really likes you too. He thinks you're smart and funny. Good company." She sipped her coffee. When I told him the whole story beforehand about Renee and Danny and everything, he just couldn't believe you were still together. He said, "Nick is a better man than I could ever be." I laughed. About that, I don't know. She's still fucking going out of her way to make it up to me, you know? Almost a year. Back massages, weekends without the kids, nice dinners, a couple Reds tickets. I got serious for a minute. It hurt like hell, Susan. You know, I hardly need to tell you this. But every time I do, it hurts less and less. And even though we don't have the marriage we once had, we still have something very good. Maybe it's getting a little better, and I'm still in the house with Vera and Ben. Leaning forward, I asked, "How are your girls doing?" "They're doing fine. I'm a little surprised this hasn't caused more problems. They hardly ever talk about him." The other night at dinner, Emma said, "It's funny, Mom, I still love Daddy, but I don't really miss him that much. We see him every week or so, and that's fine, but I don't really miss his presence here, in the house." She's still going out of her way to make it up to me, you know? I looked at Alice, and she silently nodded her head, saying, "Yeah, that's right. So I guess I shouldn't look for problems where there don't seem to be any." We sat together in the sunshine for a bit longer, just chatting, enjoyed our coffee. As we were getting ready to leave, Susan said, "Thank you, Nick. Again. I mean it. For everything. For going through this with me. For being my friend. For everything." I feel the same way, Susan. We both had those damn lemons dumped on our heads, and together we made a pretty decent lemonade out of them. I picked up my coffee cup and laughed. "Here's to lemonade." She laughed too and touched her cup to mine. "To lemonade."